Hey everybody, welcome to Cerberuz Entertainment. I am DJ Hester, your one of your hosts for today. You guys would like to introduce yourselves?
Absolutely. I guess I'll start it off. I am Keenan, aka King Gleamer, co-founder of Cerberus Entertainment and the writer for the Our Dark Vulcan comic. And It's really good.
I'm Leroy. I'm the content creator of Cerberus Entertainment, and I assist with storyboarding as well as social media manager.
And our special guest for today is Cameron Moss. He is a Street Fighter extraordinaire, and today we're gonna be talking to him about Street Fighter 6 or just Street Fighter in general, the entire game franchise, his feelings on the new game, and what the future looks like for the franchise. So, Cameron Moss, could you give a little introduction for yourself and just tell everybody your screen names?
All right. Well, hello. First of all, thank you guys for having me. I am Cameron. Everyone calls me Cam, so whatever you prefer. I usually go by my handle Cam to Cool online, as most people know, one tournament. And I changed that recently for the past couple of years to Jubei Valentine. But um, I've been competing for 6, 7 years now, I believe, in fighting games in general, and took a break, COVID reasons in 2020. But with Street Fighter 6 being out now, I am pretty much back in full time now.
Excellent. That's great to hear. So really quick, before we get into the full-on questions, I'm curious about your, I guess, are you regionally ranked? How are you ranked when it comes to tournaments? Like, what is your kind of, like, what does that look like for you?
As far as Street Fighter goes, well, fighting games in general, I'm honestly not exactly too familiar with the PR ranking system in the region. Whereas Smash Fighter, for example, they were very particular about their setup. So they had frequent updates for their community on rankings for their state. Um, but if I'm being honest, I don't actually know what the format is currently for the current condition of fighting games, seeing how everyone has just started getting back into it
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
offline, region being a thing out of like last year, with everyone being able to go back outside and and compete at locals and stuff. So that's to be dated kind of thing as far as the format goes.
Got you. Okay. I know for a fact if I were to be ranked anywhere, how many people are there in Georgia? I'd be
Too many.
somewhere around the very last number of the last person in Georgia. So whatever your rank is, I'm sure it's better than mine. But you know, when it comes to the game, Street Fighter 6, okay.
Right.
Do you like it? Do you hate it? What do you think? What are just your general thoughts?
I love it. I honestly do love it. It is a much big um improvement compared to Street Fighter 5, because I will be honest about it. 5 was appealing at first, um, back in 20, um, like 18, 2019, I believe. But after the first 2 seasons and 2 years later, my passion for the game just kind of fell out. I didn't really like the direction the game was going in, so I took a step back. Um, so mentally speaking, I was like, if I'm not enjoying the game, I'm not gonna be in it to win it or to get better. So I took a break from that, and fast forward to where we are now, you know, 4 years later, Street Fighter 6, and only 1 week has passed by officially, and it's a big improvement for what we've been playing for the past 4 years before that.
Oh my God. Okay. So you forayed right into that part. Okay. What did Street Fighter 6 improve on that Street Fighter 5 failed with?
Um, it definitely improved on appealing to the casual scene. That's always been the big talk for fighting games. It's big difference between um the generic term filthy casual and noobs for online fighting games and stuff like that. It's
That would be me.
legitimately the fighting game. The Street Fighter 6 is legitimately casual friendly, because reason being is because there's controls. The main big thing, everyone had to start off on the same starting line. You know, we had to learn about classic controls, so you had to learn the buttons on what does what. You had to learn the movement of literally every single move your character or every character does. And Street Fighter 6, there is three different controlling settings. Actually, I actually thought about the third one. There's classic, which is what we've always been playing on for since Street Fighter 1, you know. Um, and now there's a feature called modern control, which is what appeals to the casual scene because um not the lack of, but
Yeah,
shortcuts,
yeah,
you
you
know.
know, they're gonna get you for that one.
Yeah.
What?
Barrier of
Yeah.
entry.
Yeah. Yeah.
That man's about to say, now, I mean, hey, I don't know if you were
Yeah.
gonna say lack of skill, but
No,
I
no, no,
heard
no,
that
no, no,
talking
not lack
point.
of skill. Definitely not. I wouldn't go that far.
Complexity, probably.
I'm not gonna lie though. It was really hard thinking about how am I gonna approach this topic without sounding too biased about it because I'm a guy that actually likes the learning process of fighting games and I
Well,
love
you
a
know what? I
challenge.
got you on that one. Hold off on that, and I'll tell you
Hmm.
why. Okay, because
Okay.
we're gonna save that conversation just for a bit. But I do want to
Right.
ask you, okay, before we get to modern, dynamic, and classic. Okay, how many Street Fighter games have you played?
Realistically, not counting the many spin-off series you have in between, I played strictly three. There was Street Fighter 2, that was the first one I got into, around the early 2000s, and not counting the multiple editions of Street Fighter 2, so we just leave it at that. Um, the second one was Street Fighter 4, falling in that category of being an 09er because you know when you're at the age of 30 or 30, that's the term what we call ourselves now. And
Oh, that's our new term. Oh, the old
yeah, yeah,
niner.
09er,
Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
niner.
Oh
O 09er,
my.
O 09ers are OG. So when you're like
That's
just shy of 30, like maybe 1 or 2 years, or you're 30 and above, you're old. You're an
almost
old
worse.
head of the community.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
we're
almost
there.
worse than being called a boomer.
Yeah. So
This is where we're at now.
it's a legit thing now. And I'm sorry, actually, that would be four Street Fighter game because I did play five briefly for a couple of years at least. So Street Fighter Five was after that, and you know here we are now, the fourth game being Street Fighter Six. So fourth
So,
for
in
me.
your opinion, right, from all the games that you've played, not counting the spin-offs, because oh my God, there are so many spin-offs.
Yeah.
If you could rank, okay, the Street Fighter games that you've played,
Hmm.
okay, and I'm saying rank them as in like, I guess the best way to do it would be you got four games that you've played. All
Hmm.
right. The game that you from the least to the greatest.
Um, least to the greatest. Least favorite. Um, yeah, off the back, Street Fighter Five. It's a lot of hate. A lot of anything. I don't want to get into it, but
Ooh.
there's
Wow. Okay.
a lot of hate for that game. Story to be continued later for that one. Next one, it would probably have to be Street Fighter 4. Um, then the top two would be the Street Fighter 2, and currently Street Fighter 6, but that could change to later because the game just came out, so who knows where that may fall in line with. But yeah,
Now, I mean, I'm interested in that because I'm hearing the newer games before six were
right.
worse than the early game that you had just mentioned. What is it that that early game did that the other newer games did not do?
Um, the early games. Let's see here. I think in terms of I guess a prime example, we'll start with Street Fighter 2, for example. So Street Fighter 2, there really wasn't a super, you know, mechanic. There was no meter option. It was just legitimately arcade days, old school. You just played your favorite character based on how they look. You didn't know what they did, how they play. You didn't know who was a charge character. You didn't know who was a motion character. You know, um, or in the terms of button mashing characters, because certain characters like Chun Li, and Blanca, for example, had certain moves you had to mash a button continuously and whatnot. So you never knew any of that stuff. So I think the fun factor was there, and I think that was a unique standpoint for me personally. But I think what would better than 2 would definitely be when I played Street Fighter 4. Um, between meter access, access to your move list. Like I can't begin to stress how much people were just in love with just being able to actually know what they were doing with the character, what they wanted to do, what they could do, and more importantly, how to do it. So
You know,
that was a big thing.
that's a good point, and it's something that I kind of noticed in myself. Like, so me personally, I'm not a general like fighting game person. You know, I haven't really had a history in Street Fighter, but in my history in being competitive, it started with Smash Brothers. But I always found that the most fun that I had in the game came before I started seeing the game competitively. And like it's almost like after you see the game competitively, it's hard to you have a different kind of judgment system on the game because there's
Right.
all that depth that you know about it. So that's actually a very interesting perspective because it starts to bring in the question of is the game better the more competitive it is, or is it that or is the game, or should the game be catered to the crowd who finds more competition or
Right.
better competition fun? So that starts to actually, funny enough, that does go back into why they bring in the modern controls and stuff like that. But that's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah, I enjoyed
Agreed.
that too. I mean, when you think about just the overall perspective of the FGC, which you know that the culture behind it is all about intensity, very intense, right? Very
Definitely.
passionate. But I think another word that I would describe the FGC with, and for those who are watching, they don't know the FGC is the fighting game community. Another word I would describe them is efficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we go, and you were talking about the older games, you were just kind of speaking on how they were more efficient, right? Because you
Right.
had these characters, you did the moves, and you were done. One of the
Right.
bigger discussions now from players like Low Tier God on YouTube and some others who
Oh
just
God.
complain about the game, they made mention of how you now have this. A lot of people call it a gimmick, right? Mechanic where you
Right.
can basically just press a button and almost get out of any combo. That's something you just couldn't do before.
Right.
I know they had one frame links in previous games, where basically in the midst of someone's move in one frame, you could basically turn the whole game around. I mean, there was like a lot of dynamics that I think the FGC has been dealing with for a lot of years, but I feel like Street Fighter 6 may be more leaning toward the casual audience than I think
Right.
they're leaning toward the competitive audience because of that intensity, because of that dedication and that passion. I think that the FGC can seem very off-putting to people who want to get into it. So I
Yeah.
think from what I've observed so far, Street Fighter 6 is trying their best to reel them in. Like, so as a competitive player, how does it make you feel to know, okay, in the next year, these locals are about to be stacked? Like,
Um man, that's actually it was actually something that's been on my mind for a while because legitimately I was thinking about getting back into it. I am going to get back into the competitive scene. Um, but one thing that came to mind was what you actually mentioned, local, because Street Fighter 6 as of not even a week into the before the week passed by, like after 3 days of the release, Capcom sold legitimately 1 million units. So I'm like, holy crap, that is a first for
That's a
any.
lot.
Yeah, like it's a lot, man. It baffled me, but it's in a good way because I think to say that they did a good job of being understatement because I think if their goal was to draw in the casual players, and I mean they definitely did that part well, casual and newcomers. I mean, in general, all around.
Yeah, there's a $1 million prize on the table. So that
Oh
was
boy.
definitely that was it right there.
Yeah.
So you
And
That's
got
real
interesting.
quick, just for some context for everybody who's watching this, I want you all to understand that Mortal Kombat, I forget which one, sold 79 million copies. Okay. That is the highest selling fighting game of all time. Right under that is Smash Brothers that sold 71 million copies. Check this out. If this game has already hit 1 million copies in the last a week?
Yeah, within less than a week, officially 3 days after, well, 3 days including the game's official release on last
Because
Friday.
we got to count pre-orders technically too, right?
that's true.
Well, pre-orders, ironically, there was no pre-order early release. There was
Oh, that's right.
pre-orders
That's right. That's right.
for
This
special
is way back.
content, but from what I saw on social media, Facebook and Twitter, people got lucky and got the physical copy 2, 3 days um early for the
Yeah.
game. They couldn't stream it obviously for content purposes. You can't just stream stuff like that,
Yeah.
without
And that
consent.
tracks 1 million a
Yeah.
week, 52 weeks
Yeah.
in a year. In the next year, this game could be on track to
Definitely.
potentially outsell some of the highest selling fighting games of all time. So, you know, with that in mind, knowing that they have opened up the gates for the casual audience to now potentially be viable in tournament. I'm talking about people who have never picked up a fighting game in their life. They can now pick up a controller, not even a fight stick, a controller, walk into a local and beat some of the most talented fighters, players, and competitors of all time.
And it's honestly it's a scary thing, which we can save that topic for later because to keep it short now, modern controls, they're
Okay.
because
Yeah.
not to discredit them, but it's because of the legitimate fact that online right now, what I've noticed immediately in my first night playing the game is that there is no restriction as far as what um filter, better way to put it. There's no filters on what kind of player you want to get paired up against online. Casual, rank, it doesn't matter. So I legitimately had several several matches against players using modern controls. It's fully committed and it's wild. Honestly, those were wild.
I mean, no, no,
So
no. This is
so
perfect. Okay. I think we are ready. I think we're all primed. We're ready to go to have this conversation. Okay. I want to preface this for those who are watching and even for everybody here in this conversation. There are people in this conversation who use modern controls. There are people in this conversation who use classic controls. I won't tell you who, but just know that there are those here who use both and have used both. So in talking about this, of course, we're going to keep it respectful, but I do want you to still tell the truth. That's why we're here. We want to hear your opinion from the Street Fighter extraordinaire, okay? Go ahead and tell us your perspective on the entire, and I call it a war, okay? Because it's
I mean,
we know
it's not
we know
wrong.
the political parties. You know the
It's
political parties. You know what I'm
legitimately
saying? You got
it's
classic, you got modern. Here in America, you got two main political parties. You got another one sitting on the side. They're called dynamic. But we know
right.
the two main political parties is modern and classic. So go ahead. Tell us your perspective.
Um. All right.
give
So,
us the hot take.
Let's go.
right. So, we'll get the mono one out the way because that's a easy way to transition. Modern, it is definitely interesting. The layout for it is something else.
Talk
At
about it.
first,
Talk about it. Yes.
I did. As I was making the video, the one that you guys asked for earlier this week, and I was looking at my control center and I play on a fight stick. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be really weird because I'm used to doing all the work by myself. But playing on modern where everything is essentially a shortcut, easy access. Um, the idea of it is appealing, and I see why it is. Like you still have your light, medium, heavy as default controllers, but on modern it is slightly different because classic there's a light, medium, heavy versions of both your punch and kicks. So three different variations of it. Modern has the same thing, but they're set to one button. So if you're on PlayStation, your square can be set to light attack is what it will be captioned as. So it could be either kicks or your punches. Um, what it does it's literally depend on the character because you have to not only register that button at the input, but you have to use the directional input as well too. So whatever direction you use for that said button, um, you either get that same move or same normal, or you will probably get a different variation of that. So instead of um, a regular heavy attack button, for example, on modern, it will give you like probably a standing heavy punch. But if you use like hold down on your D-pad or on your fight stick while hitting heavy on a heavy attack, it may give you a kick or a sweep. It depends. Um, I think modern is a very advantageous feature for newcomers, especially and casuals, because if I were a casual player, for example, I could be like, well, I pick up the game, I just want to play Wii, for example. I just want to have fun with the game, I don't really care about learning the game like that. I just want to play, which is nothing wrong with that. Um,
That
so
actually
I
brings that actually brings in a point I wanted to make on it because full disclaimer, I don't have the game and I haven't played it. I've just been hearing everything about it. But
right.
so so the game I end up playing as far as ranking competitiveness is Overwatch, right?
Right.
And so in Overwatch, there's a lot of contention about, because it's crossplay now, there's a lot of contention about players playing on mouse and keyboard and players playing on controller with aim assist. What Blizzard did is they said you can play together on both in quick play, but in ranked, it's separate queues. But here's the other caveat. If you're playing together, so like in quick play, if you play, if like say for instance, if Leroy's on a controller, I'm on mouse and keyboard, it queues us in a separate queue with other teams that will be mouse and keyboard and controller players. So you're always going to be matched pretty fairly. In ranked, they're completely separate. If you're on a controller, you don't have aim assist. And if you're on console, you're just in the controller queue whatsoever. You don't play against anyone with mouse and keyboard. And I associate this with Street Fighter because, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. Well, let me ask the question first. Doing classic mode, right? Are you able to achieve more damage in classic controls than the modern?
Definitely, 100%, 100%.
Okay, yeah. So, in my personal opinion, from the outside perspective, they shouldn't be mixing this tournament together for that $1 million at all. They should have separated it 100% because that messes up the competitive integrity of the game. Like, you can do more damage with the classic controls, but I don't think that it is. I just don't think it's fair. I just don't think it's fair.
Actually, I'll touch on that, and I'll tell you how I'm gonna touch on that because there was a study done, and these players they already are doing studies and frame data and all this stuff. It's incredible. I love it, right? Street Fighter community, y'all don't play about this stuff. So somebody went, and if I remember the numbers correctly, 0.2 seconds it takes to input a move, a special.
Yeah.
On modern. 0.5 to 0.7 seconds it takes to input a move, the same move or one similar to it on classic, meaning that although classic controls gives you more damage, it takes longer to achieve the move. Whereas in modern, it's less damage, but it's quicker to achieve the move. So I really appreciate how Capcom tried to figure this out because they were like, well, there needs to be a debuff, right? There has to be a way where, okay, you can do the move quicker, but why are you doing just as much damage? That's not fair. So let's do it in a way where you do less damage, although the move is quicker. There's still a disadvantage there if you're playing in modern. But the issue there, again, is the competitive integrity. And that's kind of what I think everybody is currently, I think that's the center of the heart of this conversation. Is if I'm in competition with somebody, okay, we're both playing on a controller, not even a fight stick, right? that guy is modern, that girl is modern, I'm classic, or vice versa. Does it seem fair that one of us has a literal frame advantage because of the type of controller we're playing? Does it seem fair that we have a literal time advantage because of the controller type that we're playing? I'm not entirely sure if that's fair. And it's almost like, and I heard an analogy, and the analogy was it's like an Olympian, right? Somebody who's a track star Olympian going against somebody who's a Paralympian who may have been hurt in war or maybe have, some damage. Now, initially you say, well, then the Olympian would win because whatever the Paralympian is in there for is probably going to hinder their performance. Not true if that Paralympian has robot legs that have hydraulics that push them a little further. Oh, by the way, their legs don't get tired and they actually can run faster and longer than the Olympian. So when you think of it like that, it's like, well, dang, the modern controls are designed to help, but it's actually not, it's not even like helping. It's literally making you a better player in a lot of respects. So it's like in your opinion, competitive integrity, does that line up with what, I mean, how do y'all feel about it, Cameron?
As far as the integrity goes, it's weird because from what I've seen on Twitter, primarily because the FGC is heavily active on Twitter, so anything related on that fighting, you can go there. But awkwardly enough, because I was expecting the opposite reaction, there's been a lot more support for not so much modern controls per se, but more so for the casual and newcomers because they're happy that there's more people supporting the game and whatnot. So, as far as the integrity goes in that factor, I think it definitely can compromise the integrity because, for one, literally anything can happen as far as the in-game match, tournament matches go. Anything can happen between modern control, either like you said, having a shorter time period of having to input a special move versus the classic user. While it is 0.3 seconds different, but that 0.3 seconds makes a big difference between what a player can and can't do. And you have to count in the random factors of, the intensity of those players, or the pressure of having a warning in this case to win, or the pressure of not having to lose because you're probably on the loser side of the bracket. And when you're talking about $1 million on the line at Capcom Cup, at the end of every year, I would be scared for my life too if I was exactly. I had to lose to a man who would just do down special attack, and I get hit with a walk up or a wake up DP
on reaction.
On reaction, mind you. So it's like, I mean, despite the mechanics we have in the game, it's a lot of factors you have to consider. From chip damage, low life, because drive impact isn't as helpful. It's helpful, but it's not as as free willing as people think to let it on. So
I mean, I've played the game. I mean, absolutely, and I've played the game. I played it all last night until 6 a.m. today.
Wow. Jesus, you better than me.
I'm a little addicted to the game, and I'll tell you why. Okay, as I've been playing it, I have been destroying people. I mean, it's so much fun because I've always been into fighting games since Tekken 1, since Street Fighter 3, since Mortal Kombat 0. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been doing this. So I jumped right in, and I played Kimberly, which that's a whole conversation for another day. But I think I went on a 8-win streak in rank.
Ooh.
And
there you go, dog.
You know what I'm saying, bro? I went into train, and I'll tell you why that's important, and then we'll kind of mosey on to the conclusion here, because I think this part is going to be interesting with the idea of the training mode. Okay, when I went into training mode, I was able to, I completed all the beginner, almost all the intermediate, and I'm going into advanced for Kimberly. And my hands still hurt. But the point is that it was such an incredible experience to feel what it felt like to really accomplish these moves. And the game guided you into how to do it. That's what it looks like. This is how you do it. Okay, the timing might have been a little off. Hey, let's do that again. The game is really, I mean, even as somebody who's been in the fighting games for decades, it's still holding my hand. And like, here you go, buddy. He'll get, hey, make that combo happen. Hey, make that guy make him feel like he doesn't want to play the game anymore. Okay. This combo, do the drive impact, throw him on frame one, get up. This feels good, doesn't it? And I said, yes, it does. And I played till 6 a.m. So I think what the game is great at is making everyone feel so invited. I mean, that's really it. Regardless if it's dynamic or classic or modern, it's the invitation to say, come on in. You're invited too. Hey, do you have carpal tunnel? Well, that's okay. Press one button in a direction and you just beat somebody up. Do you have issues with eyesight? Well, that's okay. Use modern controls and that'll help you as well. People who have never been able to play games without special setups are now able to play because modern has made it accessible. That is something to be praised. And I'll give this game, I'm talking modern, classic, whatever side of the fence you're on, that is to be praised. Many games cannot say they have done that. So applauding Capcom for opening up the door for that. But with regards to competitive, that's still up in the air. But I do agree. I think the general consensus is we should probably separate them competitively.
Yeah, because it's not a thing online, so which I was shocked about. You can't filter out who you want to play against as far as controller users go. So it doesn't really bother me as much, honestly. I'm the kind of guy where I just, they say just run the hands, that's all I'm here for. I'm just here to play the game and have fun with it. I'm not really competitive. Even online, when a lot of people have the mentality of my ranking matters, or I'm gonna one and done because I won, and even though I barely won, I don't want to play. I'm not that kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm never competitive until I'm actually in the competitive scene, like offline speaking. Online, I just want to have fun. That's all I'm here for. But it just does bad for me that we don't have a filter feature to separate not the strong from the weak and like that, but just classes per se. That's the best way to put it.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely right. And we appreciate you, Cameron. Cam Too Cool for coming through. We appreciate it. What was your other handle? You said you changed it recently?
Oh, to Jube Valentine. Yeah.
We're going to put all those at the bottom there, bottom of your screen. We appreciate your time. And honestly, this whole conversation is going to transform over time because we know that things will be different as time goes on. People are going to get nerfed. The game is going to change. They may very well create a separate rank system for classic and modern. We don't know what the tournament may look like eventually if there's enough outcry. All of this may change in the next few months, which then we might have a conversation with you to see what your thoughts are when it happens. Okay, so we appreciate it, everybody. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Keenan, you had some words for our audience.
So actually, I was going to just check in with Cam before we let him go. Did you have anything you wanted to plug for you outside of just your tags, your handles?
I think the only thing that I have left to probably mention is because you guys probably know about it already. I am doing a giveaway for Street Fighter 6 next weekend on the 16th, I believe. I believe it's a Friday. I had to double check. I haven't picked the time yet. I actually do work that day, so I'm not actually sure when, but it'll probably be in the evening that day. Copy will be for standard edition, mind you, for PC and PS5. So if you win it on PC, I'll just gift it to you via Steam right at that moment or after the stream. Or PS5, I'm gonna end up mailing that directly to whoever wins that because I already have the copy with me, the extra copy of the PS5. So
dope. So if y'all want that, definitely go follow him in his tags. We appreciate y'all for listening for as long as y'all have. Cam, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate all of y'all for this conversation. We definitely gonna have it again. This has been Cerberuz Entertainment. I appreciate everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.